Good Sunday evening. I'm Howie SIlbiger. Welcome to the Howie SIlbiger Show right here on the True Talk Radio Network. We are live, which means you could call in. The number to call, 1-877-669-1292. That's 1-877-669-1292 to get in on the conversation here on the Howie SIlbiger Show on the True Talk Radio Network. Now, we haven't been on for a while, and I'm doing a Sunday night show. Generally, we won't be on Sunday nights. I'm still working out the schedule. We'll be on periodically during the week. Once the schedule is finalized, I'll have a more permanent schedule posted on TrueTalkRadio.com. And, of course, I'll let you know on the True Talk Radio web pages, the pages on Facebook. So feel free to check out our Facebook page, at the True Talk Radio Facebook page on Facebook, and you could join the True Talk Radio, the Howie SIlbiger Show, the Howie SIlbiger Show group on Facebook, where we talk about politics and a whole lot more. It's always a fun group. The Howie SIlbiger Show group is amazing. Like the Howie SIlbiger Show on Facebook. And, of course, you could download the True Talk Radio Network app from your favorite app store, where you can listen to True Talk Radio programming 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. So a synagogue was attacked. It was Jews were taken hostage during a prayer service. And much has been said about this incident. A lot has been said about this incident. Some of it I agree with, some of it not so much. But I wanted to talk to you about it because I think it's important that we talk about these things. I think it's important that we dissect them and we understand exactly what happened here. So the FBI made a statement yesterday that disturbed me. It disturbed me a lot. The statement they made was that the terror attack, the attack on the synagogue in Texas, had nothing to do with the Jewish community. Well, 1 second. What do you mean it had nothing to do with the Jewish community? That the terrorist had a singular issue on his mind which had nothing to do with the Jewish community. But it was the Jewish community that suffered for this. It was the Jewish community that was taken hostage. It was a rabbi and his congregants who were disrupted during a prayer service and who were taken hostage. So I'm pretty sure that the Jewish community had something to do with this. To negate the danger posed by this kind of action on the Jewish community is not only insulting to Jews and to most people who could think everywhere. It's also revolting. It's revolting that in 2022, Jewish life is still worthless. It's revolting that in 2022, the fact that 4 Jews, 6 Jews, 100 Jews, didn't really matter how many, that Jews were taken hostage in a synagogue, and the world didn't seem to care. Nobody seemed to care. Yeah, you had Ted Cruz, and you had a couple of Republican senators who posted their thoughts and prayers. The President of the United States didn't make a statement. There was no statements. There was no mass condemnation. It was just another Jewish synagogue taken over by an Arab terrorist hell-bent on killing Jews. Well, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to call him an Arab. I apologize. He was Pakistani. Just another synagogue. Just another bunch of Jews that were in danger of being killed. No biggie. Happens every day. Who cares? That was generally the attitude of the world. That was generally the attitude of politicians everywhere. There were no mass condemnations. There were no mass outrage. Even the Jewish community, there wasn't any mass outrage. It's amazing to me that an event like this can happen, and there's no mass outrage in the Jewish community. It's amazing to me that Jews still vote Democrat when the Democratic president made it obvious, and it was extremely obvious, that he really didn't give a damn that Jews were being held hostage in Texas. And this is a common thread when it comes to politicians. It's a common thread when it comes to the history of the Jewish people in the world. It's common. This is what happens. Jews get attacked. Jews almost get killed or are put into danger. And the world just doesn't care. Nobody seems to care. I don't know why it is. I don't know what causes this kind of apathy. And it's apathy amongst the politicians, apathy amongst the Jews, apathy amongst everyone. I don't know what causes this. I don't know why people are so apathetic when it comes to Jewish life. Now, there was much talk about this rabbi, this guy Charlie Seiton Walker. It's a Reformed synagogue that was taken over. And the rabbi of this Reformed synagogue, and I'll use the term rabbi very loosely in this case, the man in charge, the spiritual leader of this Reformed synagogue, this man named Charlie Seiton Walker, he came out a couple of years ago, and he's been very vocal about being against the apartheid state of Israel. Now, while I don't think everybody should support the state of Israel. An apartheid Jewish leader accusing Israel of apartheid, a BDS-sponsored Jewish leader, just sickens me a little bit. But what sickens me even more about this man, not that he deserved anything that he got. I don't think anyone deserves to be taken hostage and have their lives put in danger, and I think that the Jewish community should have stood up and defended him. Regardless of how vile this man is, the Jewish community should have stood up and defended him, because that's what we should do. We should defend our fellow Jews, defend our brethren, defend the people who are part of our tribe. But what this guy did was, after he got released, after the terrorist was killed and he got released, he released a statement on Facebook. And what did the so-called Rabbi Charlie Seiton Walker say? I'll show it to you. Let's take a look. He said, "I am thankful and filled with appreciation for all the vigils and prayers and love and support, all of the law enforcement and first responders who cared for us, all of the security training that helped save us. I am grateful for my family. I am grateful for the CBI community, the Jewish community, the human community. I am grateful that we made it out. I am grateful to be alive." Do you see what's missing? Nowhere in the statement does he say he's grateful to God. Nowhere does he say, "Thank you, God, for looking out for me. Thank you, God, that none of my congregants got killed. Thank you, God." Doesn't appear once in his statement. He doesn't say thank you, God, at all. How disgusting is it that a man who calls himself a rabbi thanks everyone, including the security trainers and the community and the human community, whatever the hell that is, but doesn't thank God? This is the issue. This is the issue with the American Jewish community today. And I've spoken about this a lot, and I've ranted about this quite a lot. This is the issue with the Jewish community in the States today. God has been removed from the equation. God doesn't exist in Judaism, in the Jewish communities, at least some of the Jewish communities in the States, the Reform community especially. God doesn't exist. He's a figment of our imagination. He is a human construct. We live in the human community, and we must be humanitarians. God is not involved. God is just a human construct, according to these people. And therefore, when good things happen to us, it's fate and it's the willpower of the people that have worked to make good things happen. And when bad things happen, it's also fate and the willpower of the people who work to make bad things happen. And this is all that exists. There is no higher being. There is no superior being. There is no being that says that controls the world, or there's no divinity. And I've asked the question before, and I'll keep asking it, and I ask it over and over again. If that's the case, and God has been removed from the equation, and this is why I was hesitant to call this guy a rabbi. He takes a stand against Israel, calls Israel an apartheid state. In fact, he even referred to the Israeli government as a Nazi government. And then he gets stuck in this terrible, horrific hostage situation, and doesn't even thank God at the end of it. Gets out of it unscathed, unhurt. Nobody was hurt except for the hostage taker who was killed. And the man gets out of this horrible situation, this horrific situation that shouldn't happen to anybody. And it's condemnable, and I condemn it if it would have happened on any religious institution. No institution should ever be attacked. And he doesn't even have the mindset to say, thank you, God, for getting me out. Couldn't care less about God. Wow. I'm telling you, I'm blown away by the fact that this guy calls himself a rabbi. He's a spiritual leader. He's the rabbinic leader of this synagogue. I'll use that term very loosely. We'll call it a temple. Actually, I won't even call it a synagogue. He's a spiritual leader of this Reformed temple. I won't even thank God. Now, Judaism is built on a couple of pillars, and a couple of pillars that we understand are fundamental in Judaism and in the survival of Judaism, and in fact in the DNA of Judaism. One of the pillars that Judaism is built on is that there is one God. It's monotheism. Judaism is a monotheistic religion, which means that we believe in God. The second pillar is, of course, that we believe that God gave us the Torah, and the Torah was given exclusively to the Jewish people, and the Jewish people follow the lifestyle set in the Torah. And the third thing that we believe in is that the Torah is broken into two aspects. There's the Torah, the written Torah, and there's the Talmud, which is the oral Torah. And this is what we believe in. And this is the pillars of Judaism. Without the belief in all three of those things, we don't exist as Jews. Judaism doesn't exist. Now, there are people who always argue this point with me. Whenever I make this statement, there are people who always argue that I'm a cultural Jew. I have ancestors Jews. I like Jewish tradition. No. If you want to be a Jew and you want to follow Judaism, then these are the fundamental beliefs of Judaism. There's no ifs, buts, maybes. There's no yes, no's, maybes. These are the fundamental beliefs of Judaism. If you don't believe in these things, you're not Jewish. You can't be Jewish. It's impossible for you to be part of the Jewish religion if you don't believe in God. So taking the Reform movement, and at least this temple of the Reform movement, where the rabbi obviously doesn't believe in God. He didn't thank God for surviving this event. So by not thanking God, he was pretty much saying that, God doesn't exist. He doesn't factor into the events that happen to us. So taking God out of the equation, then they're just a bunch of people who get together and follow Jewish rituals, some Jewish rituals, for no reason. Why would you go to synagogue and why would you pray if there's no God? Who are you praying to? Why would you read the Torah on a Friday? Well, they read on Friday nights. Why would you read the Torah on a Friday night if God doesn't exist? If you don't believe in God, then what's the point in reading the Torah? You like to read stories? You can read stories from any book. But why to read the Torah? Why would you have a Yom Kippur service? How does that work? The Day of Atonement. The day where you go and you pray for your life to God. What are you doing in a Reformed temple if there's no God? If God doesn't exist? And what is the purpose of showing up and doing this? See, this is something I never understood. Now, if you get it, you can give me a call, 1-877-669-1292. If you're watching a replay of this, you could always email me, howie@truetalkradio.com. And maybe you can explain it to me because I don't get it. I just don't understand it. And I never understood it. I've been doing shows like this for 30 years. I've been asking the same question year after year after year after year. And I still don't understand how it works. I still don't get it. I don't understand why anybody would want to pretend to be a Jew. It doesn't make sense to me. And nobody's been able to explain it to me. I haven't had anybody being able to explain it to me. Maybe you can. 1-877-669-1292. I mean, let's read this again because, it's just, to me, it's unbelievable. It's unbelievable that this guy calls himself a rabbi and this is what he said. Let's look at it again because maybe I read it wrong. It's possible. I'm not perfect. Maybe I made a mistake. Maybe I read it wrong. So let's take a look at it one more time. Just to make sure that I got it right. I am thankful and filled with appreciation for all the vigils and prayers and love and support, all the law enforcement and first responders who cared for us, all the security training that helped save us. I am grateful for my family. I'm grateful for the CBI community, the Jewish community, the human community. I am grateful that we made it out, and I'm grateful to be alive. Period. Point blank. No mention of God whatsoever. Nothing. Not even a hint that God exists. I have it up there on the screen for you. You can read it for yourself. Not even a hint that God exists. Couldn't care less. Irrelevant. To me, that's scary. And I've been saying that the death of the Jewish community in the States, in the United States, is imminent. And if this is our religious leaders, if this is the religious leaders of one of the largest movements of so-called Jews in the States, then Judaism is in serious trouble. No, thank you, God. Thank you, God, for guiding me out of this. Nothing. Unbelievable. But another unbelievable point in this thing, yeah, my earpiece is giving me a problem. Sorry. Another unbelievable point in this in this equation is the fact that this man went into a synagogue. Why did he choose a synagogue? Why did he choose to attack the Jewish community? Was it anti-Jewism? Was it a simple case of we hate Jews? Jews are the enemy, so we must attack Jews. What was that the case here? We'll never know because the man was killed. They didn't take him in alive. They shot him to death. So we'll never actually know what his motivation was. From what he said on the live stream, and I watched most of the live stream video because the synagogue, of course, was live streaming Saturday morning services when this whole thing went down. So I watched part of the live stream, the part that's been available. And he was discussing. He said, look, he came to the door of the synagogue and he knocked on the door and they opened the door and they let him in. And they offered him tea. And he drank tea with the rabbi before he took hostage. And he was thanking, the hostage taker was thanking God that he didn't have to shoot anybody to get into the building. And thank God I didn't have to shoot anyone to get into the building. The hostage taker was thanking God, but the rabbi didn't bother to thank God when he got out of this. The hostage taker thanked God, but the rabbi didn't. They attacked the Jewish community because they hate Jews. Simple as that. If the FBI was saying, hey, the Jewish community had nothing to do with it, the Jewish community had everything to do with it. It was a Jewish institution that was taken over. If we didn't have anything to do with the issue that the man was upset about, which was essentially some Al Qaeda broad that was arrested years ago, and she's sitting 86 years in prison, and he wanted her released. Whatever. I really don't care what his motivation was, why he decided to go and take hostages. But if we take a look at that, and we understand that the whole idea behind him attacking the Jewish center, going after the Jews, was simply a case of Jew hatred. There was no other reason for him to be in a synagogue. There's no other reason for him to take over a synagogue. He could have gone into a Walmart and made the same point, taken a lot more people hostage in a Walmart. But he chose a synagogue, not a Walmart, on a Saturday morning where he knew that religious prayer was going on, or whatever, some prayer was going on in that building. He chose a temple to go into, and he knew that there was some kind of service going on. So he didn't maximize his exposure by going to a temple. If he was interested in maximizing his exposure, a shopping mall, a Walmart, a Target, or any big box store, a Best Buy, any of these big stores would have been a better target for him. If he could have taken hostages in one of these big stores, he could have had multiple hundreds of people. Instead, he went into a religious service happening in a temple. He picked out the place because he hated Jews. And he figured if he was going out, and he knew he said, I'm going to die. When he walked in, first thing he said was, I'm going to die. So if he knew he was going out, he was looking for martyrdom. And how do you get martyrdom? Well, in radical Islam, the only way to get martyrdom is to kill Jews. If you kill the infidels, the Jewish infidels, the supporters of Israel, the Zionist state, this Zionist state that is the oppressive state, it is the state that is oppressing and occupying Arabic land. If you kill those people, well, then you're a martyr. You go straight to heaven. So he chose a synagogue because he figured if he had to kill somebody, might as well kill Jews and go straight to heaven and become a martyr, rather than killing random people in a Walmart and then who knows, maybe I hit the right person, maybe I didn't hit the right person, and my ascension to heaven is not guaranteed. Now, if you think that's scary, it is. It's very scary. It's an extremely scary scenario. It must have been scary for the hostages too. I'm sure they didn't have it wasn't a day at the ballpark for them. But at the end of the day, they got out by the grace of God. The hostage taker understood that. It's very unfortunate the so-called rabbi didn't. 1-877-669-1292 is the number to call. I'm Howie SIlbiger. This is the Howie SIlbiger Show right here on the True Talk Radio Network. We're going to be on periodically through the week. I will have a permanent schedule up shortly on the days that we're actually going to do a show. Political Hitman on Israel News Talk Radio, another show I host, will be back probably next week. It won't be back this week. It'll probably be back next week as we start to roll out the shows again and start producing radio and the YouTube podcast and the Facebook podcast again. We do it live, and then then you can watch it and listen to it all week. Of course, you can download the app, the True Talk Radio app, the True Talk Radio Network app, from your favorite app store, and you can subscribe to the Howie SIlbiger Show on your favorite podcasting network. The Howie SIlbiger Show is podcasted everywhere, so just go to your favorite podcaster and search for the Howie SIlbiger Show. If you have one of those smart devices at home, an Alexa, a Google Nest, or any of those smart devices, you can also tell that smart device, hey, play the Howie SIlbiger Show, and it will play the latest episode of the Howie SIlbiger Show. And you can also tell it to listen to True Talk Radio on TuneIn Radio. And True Talk Radio, the stream from True Talk Radio, will play on your smart device. So we're connected to everything. So feel free to listen to us everywhere and anywhere you want. Now, many people have asked me about changes to the show, and I will tell you there are some changes that are unfortunately happening on the show, and some of it I think is for the better. Sheldon is going to take some time off. He's not going to appear on the show, or sporadically he'll appear on the show, but he's not going to be on every show. He's taking some time off to pursue some personal objectives that he has. He's working on something, and I wish him the best of luck. I love being on the show with Sheldon. He's still involved in the background. He's still producing the show. He's still producing his music show Inside the Vault on True Talk Radio, so you could hear Sheldon on that. But on this show, he will sporadically appear, but he's not going to be on every show. I will be running solo. There will be very few permanent co-hosts on the show with me. It'll be me hosting the show. I'm going to have some guests on the show. I anticipate every second or third show of the Howie SIlbiger Show will have a guest. If you have any suggestions on who you would like to see me interview, you could always post them up on the Howie SIlbiger Show page on Facebook. I'd love to hear from you. You could always email me, howie@truetalkradio.com. I'd love to hear from you and suggestions on who'd love to see interviewed. We've interviewed some pretty high-profile people on the show, and we have had some very, very good guests. And it's not hard for me to set them up. And if you have any suggestions, feel free to forward them. I'm already setting up interviews for the next few shows, so that's going to happen in coming up. And of course, we're going to talk about politics. We're going to talk about religion. We're going to talk about a whole lot of different stuff on the show. The show is not going to change fundamentally. We've always talked about religion, politics. Maybe the background will change. Maybe some of the imagery on the screen will change. But at the end of the day, we talk about the stuff that nobody wants to talk about. We cover the issues that nobody wants to cover. And sometimes we talk about the Jewish community. And I'll tell you the truth. I will always tell you the truth as I understand it. I won't sugarcoat anything. I won't hide anything. And I don't kowtow to anybody. This is an independent show. We're not beholden to our sponsors. We're not beholden to a network. We are independent radio. And being independent radio gives us the freedom to talk about anything that we want to talk about and express any opinion we want to. We've already been censored on YouTube. We've already been censored on Facebook. And I don't mind being censored again. It doesn't bother me. If you can't find us on YouTube, you can find us on Facebook. If you can't find us on Facebook, you can find us on Mixcloud. If you can't find us on Mixcloud, you can find us on Twitch. If you can't find us on Twitch, you can find us on Facebook. If you can't find us on Facebook, I will be posting a stream on TrueTalkRadio.com. There will always be a way you could watch and listen to the show. The stream, the True Talk Radio stream, belongs to me, and I'm not going to be editing this show at all. So you could always listen to it. If we can't air it, the video, we will always air the audio. So never fear, this show will remain, even if it disappears off some platforms. Some of the platforms, I just don't like some of the stuff we talk about. For instance, I've been doing these Howie's Rants. I don't know if you've seen them. You can check them out on the YouTube channel, the Howie's Rants. The Howie's Rants, or the Facebook page, or any of the social media pages of the Howie SIlbiger Show. The Howie's Rants are 3 minutes of me commentating. Learn how to speak English, Howie. Commenting on different subjects. I've been covering COVID a lot in these rants, and 2 of them have been pulled off YouTube. I put them back up. We'll see how long they stay up. They're going to be pulled off again, and maybe my YouTube channel will be banned. That'll be nice. I don't care if it is. If the YouTube channel gets banned, I'll let you know, and we'll move over to Rumble. I have no issues with any of this. I believe we have the right to express ourselves. We have the right to express our opinions, and there's going to be nobody that's going to stand in the way of me expressing my opinion. Now, you may disagree with my opinion, and that's fine. That's why I have open lines. And if I'm off the air and it's not live, you're watching the show as a recorded show, you could always call the 800 number on the bottom of the screen, 1-877-669-1292, and you can always leave a message. And I'll play your message on the air, and I'll get back to you, and I'll respond on the air. It doesn't bother me that if you don't call during the show and you want to call afterwards, feel free. Leave me a message, and we'll play the message on the air. If you want to email me, you can email me. However you want to contact me, it's fine. So, the Lego government of Quebec has decided that because the public doesn't like curfews, they're going to cancel the curfew. Now, we all know that curfews don't work. How do we know that curfews don't work? Because we were in a multiple-month curfew not that long ago, and COVID is still here. So curfews do not stop COVID. We all know that masks don't work. How do we know that masks don't work? Well, we've been wearing masks consistently for 3 years now, almost 3 years now, and COVID is still here. We all know that vaccines don't work. How do we know that vaccines don't work? Well, we've all gotten vaccinated, or at least the majority of us have gotten vaccinated, and yet COVID is still running rampant. So what's going on? Why are we still locked down? Why was there still a curfew imposed? Why are stores only allowed having 50% of people inside? Why are restaurants only allowed to do takeout? Why are we destroying our economy? We understand that many people have died, and it's very tragic that people have died of COVID. It is extremely tragic, and I don't wish that upon anybody ever. This is the most tragic thing that's happened in the last 30 years for sure. And millions of people have died, and that is sad beyond belief. And we should grieve every single one of the people who died of COVID. But like a lot of other things, we focus on the people who died, but not the people who survived. The media, and God bless the media. I worked for the media for years, and some of the best years of my life I spent working for the media. And the media's sole goal is not to give you the news. Its sole goal is not to inform you or entertain you. Its sole goal is to put money into its publishers' pockets. So corporations own the media now. There's no more private media unless you go independent like True Talk Radio. Media is not private anymore. Media is owned by corporations, and corporations are profit-driven. So how does a corporation like CNN or Fox News or the Montreal Gazette or the Toronto Star or the Washington Post, how do they make money? Well, the more people that read their paper, the more people that look at their paper, or the more people that watch their network, the more money they could charge for advertising. So, how do you get people to watch your network, to read your paper, to pay attention? Well, it's quite simple. So you go one of two ways. And it's all propaganda, so you go one of two ways. So the way that a vast majority of the media decided to go was, let's scare people. Let's play up numbers that we shouldn't be playing up, play down numbers that will calm people down, and have people really nervous about this disease. And let's play into this whole idea that everybody is at peril for this disease, in this disease. And that'll increase our media coverage. It's true, it did. Newspapers were dying. They were literally dying. And now they're alive. We're going to take a little break. I'll be right back. So the media was dying. Newspapers were on the verge of bankruptcy. Governments were bailing them out. CNN was put up for sale because they weren't turning a profit. The corporations were trying to shed media companies as quickly as you shed your dirty socks at the end of the day. And then COVID came around, and the media companies said, hey, wait a second. We could exploit this. We could use this to save ourselves. So they started playing up the dangers of COVID. Now, the governments loved the idea that the media was playing up the dangers of COVID because that gave them more power. The more scared the population was, the more they would listen to the government. So the government and the media started working hand in hand. And anybody who opposed the media, anybody who stood against what the media had to say, anybody who tried to delve in and look at facts was shut down, as they are still being shut down now. So, if I do a show, and I dedicate the show on the efficacy of masks, are masks useful? Do they help? And I bring on 3, 4, 5 doctors who will tell you that the way the masks are constructed, they're kind of useless for stopping COVID. The way the masks are constructed, COVID particles are very much smaller. The molecules are much smaller than the holes in the mask, and so they get through. And so wearing a mask, wearing a regular blue mask, these surgical masks really are ineffective. Maybe it helps slow the spread a little bit because your spittle's not going everywhere. But in general, they don't really work. I could do a show on that and bring in all these experts to talk about that. But that's guaranteed to be pulled off every social media platform out there. They're never going to let me do a show like that. So I would never be able to say that in a show on social media. That would be a big no-no to say something like that. So I'll avoid saying that masks are ineffective and the science has proven that. I'll stop. I won't say that. No, because that would be inappropriate in accordance to the laws of social media. Then I could do a show talking about how vaccines, how experimental vaccines, the ones that are being forced upon us, are a violation of every charter. They're a violation of our Canadian Charter of Rights. It's a violation of the it's a violation of the U.S. Constitution. to force people to take vaccines. But I won't say that either, because that would get me thrown off social media too. You see, because if you try to fight against or speak against the popular belief or speak against the narrative, they shut you down. Now I know I'm starting to sound like a a conspiracy nut. I'm really not a conspiracy nut, but this is the truth. It's reality. I did a show not long ago about masks. We talked about masks. We had two experts on the show, and we spoke about the efficacy of masks, and we talked about how masks are ineffective. And YouTube pulled the show off because it was in violation of their policy, violation of their COVID policy, which means that you could only give the information that they want you to give, and you can't really talk about stuff that they don't want you to talk about. So because I spoke about stuff that they didn't want me to speak about, they yanked me off the air. They pulled the show. The show does not exist on YouTube anymore. Facebook pulled it off about 2 days after YouTube did. So maybe YouTube sent a note to Facebook, or I don't know. But Facebook pulled it off about 2 days after. Violating the same concept, telling me I violated the same rule, that you can't say things that go against what the government is telling people about COVID because you're spreading false information. Even though I had a bunch of doctors and scientists on the show with me to collaborate it. See, it doesn't make sense. It's illogical. We live in a world where freedom of speech is unparalleled. You have the internet. You could say anything you want on the internet. You could talk about anything you want. You get any information you want on the internet. Everything is available to you. But you can't talk. You can't speak your opinion. Another problem you have with speaking your opinion is that people who watch it and people who listen to you will label you a quack. They'll label you a radical or a conspiracy theorist, or they'll find some label for you because people love labels. This is really the way it works. The labels are a loved thing. So people love to label you a conspiracy theorist or a wacko or a nutcase. After I did the show on masks, it was up on YouTube for about 2 days before they pulled it down. I got maybe 150 or 200 emails. Tell me how much of a quack I am. I had a whole bunch of people who unfriended me on Facebook because they couldn't fathom the fact that I had a different opinion than they had. That I had a alternate opinion. And they couldn't fathom that fact. They couldn't understand how I could have an alternate opinion and still be friends with them, an alternate opinion, and still respect their opinion. Just not agree with them, but respect them. They couldn't understand how that happens. How do you respect somebody's opinion? How do you respect somebody who has a different opinion than you? It's unmanageable this in today's world. Today's world, either you fall like a sheep or you're pushed to the side. There is no such thing as freedom of speech. There's no such thing as expressing an opinion anymore. If you don't follow the group, you're dead. They shoot you. I suppose it's always been like that. If you don't play the party line, you don't get far ahead, which is why I probably never got far ahead in the commercial radio game, because I just didn't play their game. I absolutely refused to play their game, so they refused to promote me. This is the story. This is the continuous story of reality. Is that if you want to be an original, you want to be independent, you want to be able to express your opinion. The only way to do that is to build your own platform, which is essentially what I did. I built my own platform so I could express my opinion. Now, of course, I invite other people on to express their opinions, but in reality, I built True Talk Radio so I could express my opinion because nobody else was letting me do it. And I appreciate every single person who watches and listens and takes part in the show. I really do appreciate your feedback and all your concern and your cause. I appreciate you being here. But in reality, this show should be airing on a commercial radio station. There's no reason why it wouldn't be airing on a commercial radio station, except that they disagree with everything I say. You see, at the beginning of the show, I was talking about the rabbi who doesn't believe in God and condemning a rabbi who doesn't believe in God. I mean, how could you not believe in God? And I know how the conversation would have gone had I been on commercial radio and done that. The program director would have called me into his office and said to me, he was just a hostage in a hostage taking. How could you take him on like that? How could you insult him? He's being heralded as a hero, and here you are on the air insulting him. How could you do that? And my answer would be, I'm telling the truth. The man didn't thank God. He's a rabbi. He's supposed to be a religious, spiritual leader, and the man didn't even mention God in his thank you. That's the truth. The truth is, he's spiritualist. He's not a spiritual leader. He's a spiritualist leader. He's lacking spirituality. Because if he had spirituality, he'd thank God. But he doesn't have any spirituality in him. He's not a spiritual leader. He's just some employee at a temple who runs services for a religion he doesn't believe in. That's what I would have answered, and they would have fired me. Because that's the way it works in the world today. You can't express an opinion. And it's getting scary, because take a look. Try walking into a store today without wearing a mask. Just try it. Just give it a shot. See what happens. A couple of days ago, I got out of my car and I went into a store and I completely forgot to put the mask on. I don't wear a mask in my car because when I drive in my car, I'm alone and there's no reason to wear a mask in the car. And I don't wear a mask when I'm walking on the street because when I'm outside, the chances of me catching COVID or giving somebody COVID is 0%. So I don't wear a mask outside either. So essentially, I put a mask on when I have to go into a store or into a public building because I respect the rules and I respect the fact that some people are still a little afraid. So I'll put on a mask when I go into a building to appease the people who are afraid. And I forgot. And I walked into a store without a mask on. Let me tell you what happened. The first thing that happened was a woman turned around and looked at me in horror. Her eyes were wide open. Her mouth was agape. Well, I assume it was because she was covered with a mask. But her eyes were wide open in terror. And she says, "Hey, you! You forgot to put your mask on." And before I had a chance to even look over and acknowledge the fact that she spoke to me, another guy on my left, she was on my right, another guy on my left said, "Hey! Are you trying to kill us? Put your mask on." Am I trying to kill you? Now I'm trying to understand. I'm trying to process what these people are telling me. I'm trying to understand what they are saying. Are you trying to kill me? Put your mask on. What does that mean? Am I trying to kill you? How am I killing you? By not wearing a mask. Whether I'm wearing the mask or not wearing the mask, you still have the same risk of catching COVID. How am I killing you by not wearing the mask? And then an employee came running from across the store. He came running over to me and says to me, "You better put the mask on or you can't be in the store. Get out of the store. If you don't have the mask, get out of the store. I can't put the mask on. Blah, 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 blah." I said, "Hey, whoa. Calm down, buddy." I reached in my pocket. I pulled up my mask and I put my mask on. And everybody breathed a sign of relief. I felt like a terrorist walking into a building with a bomb. Here I am, an innocent person, a person who, by the way, I don't have COVID. I've been vaccinated 3 times. I have 3 vaccinations. Yet I am still a ticking time bomb if I walk into a store without a mask. Tell me that makes any logical sense to you, because it doesn't make any logical sense to me. But let's move on. Because, harping on the same thing over and over again is not going to change it. What's going to happen in 3 or 4 months from now when the government decides to drop the mask mandate? Because that's going to happen. Premier Legault already hinted at it. So it's going to happen sometime soon. The pandemic is going to become an endemic, which means that we're going to have to live with this COVID thing for the rest of our lives. And perhaps take booster shots for the rest of our lives. Kind of like the flu shot. Kind of like, the flu, basically. We'll take shots every year for the rest of our life. And I have no issue with that. That's fine. And eventually they're going to say, okay, don't bother wearing a mask because it's so widespread in the community that wearing a mask is pointless. What's going to happen to these people who have been crazy? These people who have been radicalized? These people who've gone insane when it comes to masks? The people who attacked me in the store because I wasn't wearing a mask. I walked through the door Heaven forbid I walk through the door without a mask on, and they attacked me as if I was there with a bomb and I was about to blow them up. What's going to happen to those people? Who is going to help them get over the hump? Who's going to help them realize that the world's moved on and they're still living in 2021? How are they going to get over this? If they freak out like that, this far into the pandemic and understanding how the virus works, and they're freaked out about the fact that I'm in a 100,000 square foot store not wearing a mask, and that somehow I'm a threat to them, how are they going to survive when the mask mandate disappears? How are they going to do it? I'm not sure. Is the government going to supply money for psychological help? Is the government going to supply psychologists and psychiatrists for these people? They're going to need it because they're already flipping out when you walk into a store if you don't have your mask out, or if your nose is, God forbid, under the mask. Ooh, they flip out. Who's going to help these people out psychologically? Who's going to pay for their psychological help? Because they're going to need it. Because if they're flipping out like this 2.5 years, almost 3 years into this ongoing COVID thing, then when the mask mandate disappears, when the pandemic becomes an endemic, which is going to happen in the next couple of months, they're never going to accept it. They've been too psychologically damaged by the brainwashing done by our media and by our government. It's kind of scary, if you ask me. A little while back, I saw a friend and we were talking. And throughout the entire pandemic, I saw this friend. And the friend was always wearing a single mask. Then, one day I ran into them, and they were suddenly wearing a double mask. And I said to them, why are you wearing a double mask? What changed between yesterday and today? That yesterday a single mask was sufficient, and today a double mask is necessary. And he said, I read in the newspaper that scientists are recommending a double mask. So I picked up a newspaper and I started looking through it, as I tend to do when someone tells me I read in a newspaper. Because 9 out of 10 times when people tell me I read in a newspaper, they read it wrong. So I went to take a look, and there was a long article. It ran for 2.5 broad pages. And at the end of the article, there was one line where an epidemiologist from somewhere in the States said, it might be beneficial if people started wearing double masks. It's not being recommended yet, but it might be beneficial. And that one line, there must have been 3,000 or 4,000 words in the article. That one line in the 3,000, 4,000 word article prompted my friend to put on the double mask. We are not sheep. We should not act like sheep. We are human beings. We are rational, thinking human beings. Now, everything I say, you could disagree with every word I've said in this show today. You could say, Howie, you are quack. You could think that. You could call me it. And I'm fine with that. But I'm entitled to my opinion as you are entitled to yours. If you don't like what I say or what anyone says, YouTube doesn't have to throw me off YouTube. Facebook doesn't have to ban me from Facebook. You just don't have to click on me and you'll never hear what I have to say. You don't have to listen. It's fascinating to me that people feel they have to listen when you really don't. You don't have to listen. It's quite simple. Life is easy. I don't know why everyone gets so worked up about everything. Guess it's the world we live in. I'm Howie SIlbiger. This is the Howie SIlbiger Show, where we're going to be heard sporadically throughout the week here on the True Talk Radio Network. I thank you for tuning in. I will see you again next show. Have a great one.